Alex, I was looking back at some old photos of my first shop. It was a 10 by 12 detached shed. No insulation, just single pane windows that rattled when the wind blew. I spent one entire February trying to glue up a walnut tabletop while wearing a parka and 3 layers of wool socks.
A parka. I can't imagine you having any range of motion. Did the tabletop actually survive, or is it currently a very expensive mountain of potato chips?
Let's just say I paid tuition on that lesson. I didn't realize that most wood glues basically turn into chalky white dust if they freeze before they cure. The whole thing fell apart the moment I took the clamps off. But that's the part they leave out of the YouTube tutorials. They show you the beautiful dovetails, but they don't show the guy crying over a space heater in 30-degree weather.
Which is exactly why we're doing this today. Because as much as we love the grit of the craft, nobody does their best work when they can see their own breath in the shop, or worse, when they're sweating through their safety glasses in July.
Exactly. Today, we are diving deep into shop HVAC, cooling, heating, and how to actually make your workspace habitable without spending your entire lumber budget on the electric bill.
Okay, so let's start with the big one. Everyone is talking about mini splits. I see them in every Dream Shop build on Instagram. Are they actually the silver bullet or just a very expensive wall decoration?
Here's the thing nobody tells you. They almost are the silver bullet, but only if you respect the physics. A mini split is essentially a heat pump. It's got an outdoor compressor and an indoor air handler. They're incredibly efficient because they aren't creating heat or cold, they're moving it.
Wait, hold on. Moving heat? That sounds like something a salesman says right before he hands you a $3,000 invoice. How do you move heat out of a room that's already hot?
It feels like magic, but it's just the refrigeration cycle. You've got refrigerant, that liquid gold, flowing through evaporator coils. These coils are cold. The blower motor sucks your hot, humid shop air over those coils. The refrigerant absorbs the heat, evaporates into a gas, and travels to the outdoor unit. There, the compressor squishes it back into a liquid, which releases the heat outside. Then it loops back.
Okay, I get the cooling part, but what about when it's 10 degrees outside and I'm trying to avoid frostbite on my toes?
That's the beauty of a heat pump. It just reverses the process. It pulls whatever heat exists in the outside air, and yes, there is heat, even in freezing air, and pumps it into your shop.
But there's a catch, right? There's always a catch with you, Tiger. Dust, right? We're woodworkers. Everything we do creates a fine layer of explosive flour.
Most mini splits are designed for bedrooms, not workshops. The filters they come with are about as effective as a screen door in a hurricane. What they don't put in the manual is that if you don't stay on top of those filters, the fine dust gets into the blower wheel. If the wheel gets unbalanced, the whole unit starts vibrating like a jet engine, and eventually, the motor burns out. Learned that one the hard way with my first unit. I had to take the whole thing apart with a toothbrush. It took 4 hours.
So the pro tip here is buy the mini split, but treat the filter like it's your firstborn child.
Better yet, get a unit with a reusable, easy-to-clean filter, and maybe run a dedicated air filtration system in the shop to take the load off. And here's what the old-timers know but don't share. Don't mount the indoor unit directly above your lathe or table saw. You're just inviting the sawdust to take up permanent residence.
Okay, let's talk about the low budget options. Not everyone can drop $2,000 on a mini split install. I see a lot of guys using those big red salamander kerosene heaters or those little electric milk house heaters.
Okay, look, we've all used them, but nobody warns you about this. But kerosene heaters put out a massive amount of moisture. For every gallon of fuel you burn, you're basically dumping a gallon of water into the air.
Which is great if you want your cast iron table saw to look like a shipwreck within 48 hours.
Exactly. Rust is the silent shop killer. You think you're being smart and saving money, but you're actually destroying your tools. And don't even get me started on the electric heaters. They're fine for a spot heater if you're standing right in front of them, but trying to heat a 2-car garage with a 1,500-watt ceramic heater is like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. You're just going to melt your outlet.
So if the mini split is the gold standard and kerosene is a rust trap, is there a middle ground? What about those Mr. Cool DIY kits? Are those legit, or am I going to blow up my shop trying to play HVAC technician?
The Mr. Cool systems change the game because they come with pre-charged lines. Usually, to install an AC, you need a vacuum pump and a set of manifold gauges to suck the moisture out of the lines before you release the refrigerant. If you don't do that, the moisture turns into acid inside the compressor. Ask me how I know that's a bad idea.
Oh, I'm asking. Did you kill a compressor, Tiger?
Let's just say it made a sound like a bag of marbles in a blender, and then the lights went out. The DIY kits have special valves that keep the air out of the lines. It's about as plug and play as HVAC gets.
Okay, so let's get into the how-to part. If a listener is sitting in their freezing shop right now, what's the first thing they actually need to check before they buy anything?
Insulation. This is the part people leave out because it's not sexy. It's itchy, it's messy, and it's boring. But what I wish someone had told me 20 years ago is that a 2-ton AC unit won't do a lick of good if your walls are just thin sheets of plywood and air.
Right, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom.
Precisely. Check your rim joists, the area where the shop walls meet the foundation. That's usually where the cold air screams in. Seal that with spray foam. Look at your garage door. Most shop doors are just giant, uninsulated heat sinks. Adding a simple radiant barrier kit to the door panels can change the temperature in the shop by 10 degrees overnight.
I've seen people use those bubble wrap looking sheets on their windows too. Does that actually work, or is it just shop voodoo?
It actually works. It creates a pocket of dead air. It's the poor man's double pane window. It looks a bit like you're running a suspicious lab in your garage. But hey, comfort over aesthetics, right?
Speaking of suspicious labs, what about the V in HVAC, ventilation? We spend all this time sealing the shop up to keep the heat in, but then we're breathing in finish fumes and fine dust. Aren't we just creating a beautiful, warm, toxic box?
That is a fantastic point. This is where most DIYers fail. You need a way to exchange the air. In the summer, that's easy. Open a window. But in the winter, you don't want to dump all your expensive warm air outside. What the old-timers know is that you should run your air cleaner horizontally. You want to create a circular airflow in the room. It helps the heater distribute the air more evenly so you don't have a hot ceiling and frozen ankles.
Okay, let's talk about the shop disaster of the day. You've been suspiciously quiet about your own HVAC failures. Give me the good stuff.
Okay. A few years back, I decided I was too cheap to hire an electrician for my mini split. I figured, hey, I can wire a lamp. I can wire a 220-volt disconnect.
Oh no.
I didn't tighten the lugs on the disconnect box enough. It worked fine for a week. Then, in the middle of a triple-digit heat wave, I'm in the middle of spraying a lacquer finish on a dining table, which, as you know, is highly flammable. I hear this bzzzt pop, and then a smell like burning ozone.
Tiger, please tell me you didn't burn the shop down.
I didn't, but I had to stand there in the dark, in a room full of lacquer fumes, with a molten piece of copper inside my electrical box, praying the house wouldn't ignite. I had to wait until the next day to fix it. The humidity hit the wet lacquer, it blushed and turned completely white, and I had to sand the whole table back to bare wood. I lost 2 weeks of work and nearly my eyebrows.
So the takeaway is, if it's 220 volts, maybe call the guy who has a license.
Exactly. The part they leave out of the tutorials is that your time has value. Paying an expert to do the high-risk stuff saves you from the stupid tax later.
So to summarize for the folks at home, insulate the rim joists and the doors first. If you can afford it, go mini split for the efficiency and the dehumidification. If you're DIYing, look at the pre-charge systems, but don't skip the air filtration or you'll be cleaning sawdust out of your coils with a Q-tip.
And don't use kerosene unless you want your precision squares to look like they were pulled from the bottom of the Atlantic.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts for the makers out there struggling with the elements?
Just this. Your shop is your sanctuary. If you're miserable in there, you're not going to take the time to do things right. You'll rush the joinery because your hands are numb. Or you'll skip the final sanding because you're sweating into the wood. Investing in your comfort isn't a luxury, it's a tool. It's just as important as a sharp chisel or a flat workbench.
That's a good word. Well, I'm going to go home and check my garage door insulation before I start my next project.
Good call. And Alex, don't use the bubble wrap on the windows if you want the neighbors to keep talking to you. It looks weird.
I'll keep that in mind. See you next time in the Tiger Den.